Welcome to my dark cave here. I wanted to talk about kids because they're most important and what I feel in their spines because I do see a lot of kids and most college kids pretty decent spines. What I notice about the very young kids though is it's not so much that there's atrophy of the spinal erector muscles which keep you erect, is that they just never develops. There's no development there. So these are what I call the floppy spines. So that's a major problem. So a lot of these kids, like I'll have them sit up, and I'm like, here, sit up, and I can hold them there. But as soon as I let go, they drop down. They simply cannot hold themselves upright. This is due to technology, books, school, and just already sitting. So sitting leads to a bending and atrophy of the spine. So there's no strength there and there's no support. So what happens is the ligaments over time harden. So we've gone over this in other topics or in other videos. The hardening leads to arthritis. So what I start to feel as they turn into teenagers is that hardening, and I feel that rigidity as they get older into their 20s. Um, so like I said, college kids aren't as bad because most of them haven't had as much technology as we're now having with phones. There's like little kids who have these smartphones now, and that's a big problem. So what is the best thing you can do? Because I remember being a kid, and my father's a chiropractor, so he'd always tell me, Nate, sit up straight. Nate, sleep on your back, and he'd flip me over and poke me all the time, and it just, um, I'm sure it helped, but being vigilant there and reminding your kids, but they just don't understand why they need to be doing it, and you can't really explain to them why because they just can't grasp these concepts and they can't see that far into the future to know the issues and how they will affect them so severely later on. So what you need to do is lead by example. Your kids are watching you, and they're gonna follow you. I was at the gym the other day, and there was these two kids, very overweight. I mean, they were in the gym. That was good, and they were working. And the father was standing over there just watching them. And, I mean, Steve brought him there, so that's good. But he was extremely overweight. You cannot lead your kids that way. They're just gonna they're gonna follow your example. If you're kind to people and you treat people respectfully, they're gonna see that and they're gonna emulate that. That's just the basic premise here. So if they see you faithfully working on your spine and your body and making it stronger and treating it with the respect it needs to be, they're gonna take that care as well. Hopefully they will take care to do that as well. So I've suggested foundation training. It's the best program I have ever found. There's no other program teaching people how to use their spinal muscles to lengthen them and strengthen them. I tried to teach it. I try mostly explain what happens when you don't, but this really breaks it down. And I think it's $200 to get the core elements. But what I would suggest is you get your whole family involved with this because it really doesn't take a ton of time. It's going to take a little bit to learn it. So you spend like 5, 10 minutes every night, right before dinner, like, hey, let's all get together. You don't need a ton of space. You don't need, it wants you to be barefoot, so you can just be at home and whatever in your pajamas together. You don't even need yoga mats. Just run through these simple postural exercises to start using your spine. Because once you figure out how to use your spine, your body's going to do it naturally. So kids can't sit up straight because they just don't know how to access those muscles. They don't know how to hold themselves, and likely they do not have the strength to hold themselves up in an upright position. And then as we get older, we just have all these misconceptions of how to stand and walk and move and exercise, and it leads to major degeneration in our shoulders, our hips, and our knees, and all throughout the extremities. Those are what take the hit, and those are what we have to replace. And then as we get older, we get spinal issues as well. The discs and the ligaments take the hits because their muscles are imbalanced and the muscles are atrophied. The erector muscles are not being used. So doing this program every day with your kids, making it routine, when they're stronger, you won't have to bug them all the time because it's going to become more naturally. And even if they do slouch, it's going to be okay. Is it because, like I said, you should be able to sleep in a ball and not wake up with your neck all jammed up. That should not happen. That shows that there's severe atrophy and restriction causing that, causing a subluxation, causing something to go out of place. Okay, it should not happen so easily. Little things should not injure us, like potholes should not injure us when we go over them with the car. We should be able to handle a lot of impact. Our bodies are very tough, but when you have the stabilizing structures and the spinal erector muscles not working, yes, you're going to have lots of problems. and injuries are going to happen more often, and you're going to be coming to the chiropractor all the time, spending tons and tons of money and wasting money on wasting time and money on surgery and insurances and all that. So $200 for your whole family, it's not even a question. So spending the 5 to 10 minutes a day, easy. And it's going to give you little exercises that take 5 seconds to do. And I just easily do them throughout the day. Because people are like, oh, I don't have time. You understand? I don't have time, Nate. I don't have time. You have the time. You have the time. This is the simplest, easiest program. I'm not asking you to spend hours a day in a gym. This is very simple. I'm going to go over some videos shortly here, just ideas of the errors, the erroneous ways we think about posture. There's a lot of misconceptions, so I'm just going to break it down very simply for you here, and hopefully the audio will match with the video. So we'll get into that. So lead by example, get your kids involved in these exercises, and then they'll probably just start having better posture naturally. And if they do have bad posture, they'll have the strength that it won't bother them, and you won't have to bring them in, because it's not so much about them looking good. You guys understand that. It's not about that. It's about their nervous system. A lot of these little kids are getting like brain tumors, and you got stress on the spinal cord all the time, and the brain stem. And of course, it's going to affect the brain. Of course, things can happen like that, and easily injured shoulders and hips and everything like that. Headaches and sinus infection. The list goes on and on. It's just, yeah. And chiropractic, yeah, they can help them. They're like, oh yeah, sinus infection. But they shouldn't keep getting those sinus infections like all the time. It's like, oh, bring that kid in like, 10 times a year. It should be like twice a year, just in case. They had a bad fall, bring them in. It shouldn't be like all the time. And I shouldn't feel all this atrophy and then this early rigidity. Ooh. Like I'm not even joking when I say, like, I don't want to see these kids grow up. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be worse than we got now. Because we were talking about, like, I've seen people who I know have become to my father for 40 years with the worst spines imaginable. So what has chiropractic done for you there? Well, because you misstepped A. You didn't strengthen those spinal rector muscles. You have complete atrophy of your spine. So chiropractic is getting you out of pain, but then you're going right back into pain, and that that time becomes shortened. It's a shorter latency period, and then it might not even be effective at all. It's like, I'm still in pain, because injury is just happening so easily because of the atrophy and the lack of stability. All right, so let's get into some of these videos. So we'll start with reading. So you can see a lot of curvature in the lower back here. Well, with just hanging the legs off the bed, well, what happens is you're actually opening up that lower sacroiliac joint where the lumbar is, where it's normally jammed up if they're laying. So generally, this looks like a standing posture. If you were to stand me up, I'd be generally there. What I'm not working on, I can tell, is my abs. I'm not tightening them, and that would help reduce some of that lower lumbar curvature. But overall, the neck is straight because I feel so much jamming that occipital joint right into the atlas. A lot of restriction starts there, and also what we're talking about in that lower sacrum lumbar area. So we have the reflection there. What changes in one area there reflects above, because those are what we call Lovett brothers. They can't be doing one thing without the other being affected, and that's what we see in standing. So when they take a standing posture, they have the same issue there. So simply, you can dangle your legs, or you can hover them, and then what I also try to do is I can turn my head to one side, and I'll outstretch the arm so the head is resting, and your neck isn't bowed back now, so you're actually getting a stretch from one side to the other, because sometimes we're turning left to right for various activities, so this will help limit that. So your head will be one side, and then you can put that arm out to get that pec stretch, because that gets also tight if those shoulders are always in there. So that way you can open that up just to change that position a little bit. And you can see that actually helps the lower back a little bit. So there's less arching in this position, and then you just switch that. And this is the wrong way to do it. Obviously, the head's cranked way back, increasing that cervical curve, causing major issues in the spine. And here's what we got. Actually, this is better than if you were fully on the bed, but you can still see like major dipping in there, way jamming in that lower back and the neck, and lots of issues there. You can see how that's going to distort the spine and overall destroy your core strength. So we carry the same idea into sitting. We don't want our head being pitched forward. We don't want to be rounded back. We don't want that increased cervical curve. What you want to do is remove that rounding is simply by lengthening your spine. So get your back away from the seat. You want to hinge forward on the hips. You should feel a lot of restriction in the hips as you push that core forward, and that's going to create, as you can see, your spine is now straight. So you're removing that restriction in the hips, and you're lengthening your spine, activating those erector spinae muscles. And a lot of people do this. They lean back, and that's bad too. You're really jamming stuff up there, lower back and neck. You seem like you're straight, but you're not. Obviously, it makes sense you're not. So phone is another issue. Everyone's either looking down, they're really rounded in the posture, they're leaning back, putting pressure on the sacroiliac joint, and the hips are going to tighten up because of that. Or they bring it up here and they just take their crappy posture in a different position. Now they're like, hey, I'm looking at my phone, so I'm looking at a better position. No, it's the same idea. You just want to bring your eyes level with the object you're looking at. So it's the same as with that. You just got to pitch a little bit more forward and just look with your eyes. So you can see now the hip, you're hinging forward, the core is tight, and your spine is lengthened, and you don't have that bow in your neck. You're not getting that, and you're not doing this either, where that neck's getting all curved forward and jammed up. So if you want to just do it this way, that's fine. You just tighten your core and lengthen. You don't want to be sloppy. Just because it's at eye level doesn't mean you're doing it right. Makes sense?